ABC 10 News at 7 starts now.
Most public school students in California could be back in the classroom by the end of March. Good evening, I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Lindsay Pena in for Steve Atkinson. Today, Governor Newsom announced a deal to reopen our schools. And as ABC 10 News reporter Rachel Bianco explains, it includes a financial incentive.
The deal focuses on the youngest and most vulnerable students. Districts still in the most restrictive purple tier must return to in-person instruction for students up to second grade. Districts in the red tier must get all elementary kids back in class, plus one grade in middle and one in high school. The governor is giving an incentive, $6.6 billion set aside for districts that meet the requirements by March 31st.
And our core belief is this. Once you dip your toe in, once you build a cohort confidently, once you build trust, then we will start to see a cadence of reopening across the spectrum.
Back to school. Back to school.
Some parents have been pushing for schools to open since the fall. Scott Davison has a middle school student in the Carlsbad district.
Today's just another kind of step that's a couple months late, to get something passed, and it really doesn't require any school districts to reopen, I think is the bottom line, is that it provides some incentives that these school districts don't need.
San Diego Unified and its teachers union already set an opening date for April 12th, provided the county is back in the red tier and teachers are fully vaccinated. Teacher Matthew SCHNECK believes that's a safer plan.
Essentially saying that you have to open up in purple. It doesn't matter how widespread the virus is, to me was the most concerning.
The deal does not require teachers to be vaccinated, but the governor thinks most should be able to get their first shot by April 1st. Rachel Bianco, ABC 10 News.
The deal also requires districts to have in-person instruction for the most vulnerable students in all grades. That includes the disabled, homeless, English learners, and kids without access to technology.
The county reported a low 269 new COVID cases today, while the test positivity rate was 4%. There were no reports of any new deaths today, which is typical for a Monday. So that number remains at just over 3,300. Comic-Con will once again be a virtual event this year. Today, organizers announced that, like last year, Comic-Con will be free and online from July 23rd through the 25th. They say July will still be too early to safely hold an in-person event the magnitude of Comic-Con. It typically draws about 130,000 people a year.
They go so all out to make these booths, and it's that tactile and visual being there in person experience that you don't get watching, online.
A smaller in-person San Diego event is tentatively scheduled for November, with more details to come. It will have its own set of badges, and people with badges for the canceled 2020 Comic-Con will be able to use them next year in 22.
About 500,000 more San Diegans became eligible for the COVID vaccine over the weekend. That includes education workers, restaurant, grocery, and food workers, and law enforcement. Today, Scripps La Jolla set aside several hundred doses for law enforcement members and their support staff. Scripps Health CEO Chris Van Gorder himself is a reserve assistant sheriff.
These are, our first responders. They're the ones that are running in when others are running out, and, we want to protect them.
County leaders are asking for patience, saying it could take weeks for everyone in the eligible groups to get the shot. And the vaccine superstation at PETCO Park will be closed for another day. It shut down Saturday because of a nationwide shortage of the Moderna vaccine. Canceled appointments will be automatically rescheduled. The other superstations around the county were not affected by the shortage.
Johnson & Johnson has begun shipping its vaccine across the U.S. There are now 3 vaccines approved for use in this country. ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala shows how the new vaccine could make it a lot easier for San Diegans to get a shot.
In addition to Pfizer and Moderna, San Diego County will soon have Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine available.
I'm very excited about the vaccine.
The vaccine received emergency use authorization by the FDA over the weekend. Dr. Will Sang, who has been on the front lines working with COVID-19 patients, is one of the leaders of Kaiser Permanente's vaccine team. He says this could be a game changer in San Diego for multiple reasons.
You no longer need to have what's called a cold chain storage, where every step of the way it needs to be at a certain temperature.
The Johnson & Johnson vaccine can be stored in a normal refrigerator. It's also given in a single dose. While logistics are still being discussed, Sang says having this vaccine available could make it much easier to get vaccinated at your doctor's office.
Every single office, every single clinics that have a refrigerator can be a point, a source where anybody can get vaccinated.
He says this could also be the answer to vaccinating homebound patients in a more efficient way.
This will allow us to vaccinate anywhere.
While the county still doesn't know when shipments will arrive locally, Governor Gavin Newsom says California expects more than 300,000 doses as early as this week. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine has a 72% efficacy rate in the U.S., which is lower than Pfizer and Moderna, but Sang says the vaccine has proven to be successful in preventing severe illness and death, which is what doctors are striving for.
It's 85% overall protective against severe disease or hospitalizations or death. And when you wait a little longer, meaning up to 49 days, it's 100% protective against dying or being in a hospital.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
The county says 10% of San Diegans 16 and older have now been fully vaccinated. And we know there are a lot of questions and different experiences with the vaccine rollout. Our ABC 10 News in-depth team is committed to tracking down answers and sharing your stories. Just send us an email to tips@10news.com.
The new 737 MAX planes are flying once again in San Diego. The FAA grounded them nearly 2 years ago following 2 crashes that killed more than 300 people. ABC 10 News reporter Melissa Masiha explains why aviation experts say you should feel safe flying in one.
A big milestone for the airline industry trying to rebound. The Alaska Airlines flight took off from Seattle early Monday morning. After testing the 737-9 MAX for 5 weeks, they're now part of the airline's regular fleet. The jet landed in San Diego and took off again around the lunch hour.
We have the safest airline industry in the world, and probably just about the safest place in the world to be right now is to be on an airplane.
That vote of confidence comes from San Diegan Joe Graham, a retired PSA and U.S. Airways captain. He spent more than 35 years flying commercial planes. The deadly crashes in late 2018 and March 2019 involving the 737 MAX planes killed 346 people. They were grounded worldwide. But Graham said the planes taking flight now have been fixed and sufficiently tested.
They've improved the software and they've improved the sensing devices. It is still the same airframe and the same engines, but they have fixed the problems that caused those eastern countries crashes.
Alaska recently announced an agreement with Boeing to receive a total of 68 737-9 MAX aircraft in the next 4 years. In an industry devastated by the pandemic, Graham hopes the improvements to these planes can calm passengers who may still be questioning how safe it is to fly.
I would not hesitate to fly or fly on a 737 of any model right now.
Melissa Masiha, ABC 10 News.
American Airlines was the first to start flying the 737 MAX planes again in late December. United also recently started using them again. Southwest plans to do the same later this month.
Police are still looking for a third person involved in a chase and a shooting this morning in Serra Mesa. A driver being pulled over for swerving on the 805 sped off and was chased onto a dead-end street on Encino Avenue. When officers got out of their car to make an arrest, the SUV drove toward them, causing them to open fire. The SUV rammed the patrol car and was found abandoned nearby. Officers searched the area. They ended up detaining 2 people. A third suspect is on the loose and no one was seriously hurt. 2 people need a new place to stay after a fire damaged a Normal Heights home this afternoon. It started about 2:45 in the kitchen of the home on Monroe near 35th Street. Firefighters were able to knock down the flames in about a half hour. One person inside the home went to the hospital with possible smoke inhalation.
San Diego is making the switch to renewable energy. Today, San Diego Community Power began providing electricity to city buildings, including libraries and police stations in San Diego, Chula Vista, Encinitas, La Mesa, and Imperial Beach. It'll start serving businesses in June, followed by homes in 2022. San Diego Community Power purchases the renewable energy and feeds it to our electricity grid. SDG&E then delivers that power to customers.